On today's adventure, we start in a jet boat. We take a Maldivian ATR72, get fantastic views of the Maldives, get squashed onto a 787-9 Dreamliner, get upgraded to business class. We check out Etihad's lovely business class lounge in Abu Dhabi's Zayed Airport, New Terminal A. Fly on board Etihad's beautiful A380 in business class and check out everything there is on that upper deck. And we take a diversion around the Middle East. So having just spent the last 10 days in the Hondafushi Island resort, which was just an absolutely beautiful island, 3.5–4 miles of just golden sandy beaches, it was time to get going back to the UK before any of the bungalows started to fall into the ocean due to the rapidly rising sea levels at the Maldives. So we begin our journey on the Safe Speed jet boat from Hondafushi Island at 4 AM in the morning to catch our first domestic flight down to Mali for our 9 o'clock connection on a Boeing 787-9 to Abu Dhabi. It's hard to believe that this area had a shark feeding frenzy in it last night, so better not fall into the sea here. After a very dark trip in our jet boat across the sea, we arrive at our first airport, the Hanimadu International Airport in the Maldives. This is quite possibly the smallest airport terminal I have been to in my entire life. However, they are building a new one which is due for completion sometime in 2025. However, for the meantime, it's a very small local airport, mainly used for Maldivian air for commuters to and from the islands. With very short notice to actually leave the terminal, we head out onto the dispersal where we pick up our Maldivian ATR72, which has only been with the actual Maldivian air fleet since April 2023, so a relatively new aircraft for Maldivian. Apologies, Maldivian have had the aircraft since January 23, not April 23. On the inside, the aircraft is very clean and tidy, if not a little bit cramped to walk around. However, the seats actually had quite a good amount of space for economy seats on a prop flight. The crew immediately gave us some handy wipes, which was very nice and scented. And before I knew it, we were actually on the way down the runway. We were in row 9, and it was much quieter than when we came out. We were in row 6, right next to the prop when we came out, which was really noisy, so this was a big improvement being at the back of the wing itself. Immediately, the views which were available on the flight were just absolutely breathtaking. The Maldives never fails to disappoint on the scenery and the view available from the aircraft flying over this area. I recorded so much B-roll of all of the islands that we flew over because it was just absolutely breathtaking. I might actually put this together in another video just purely of Maldives view from the sky. So whilst on Maldivian, only a 40-minute flight, we were served with orange juice, dried fruit and nuts and a chocolate bar. One thing that I did notice was that all the passengers were loaded to the back as all of the luggage was located right at the front, meaning that the centre of gravity was impacted. The seats were generally okay for only a short flight. They had plenty of legroom and the width of the seat, which turned out to be a lot more than what I was going to get on the Etihad 787-9 later that day. Before I knew it, our 40-minute flight was over and we were coming to touchdown in Maldivian International Airport, where we're going to make our connection very soon. Leaving the Maldivian ATR72, we had to head towards the domestic terminal to retrieve our luggage before walking over to the international terminal to catch our next flight with the Etihad 787-9. We were greeted after collecting our suitcases by a representative from our hotel who guided us over to the international terminal and to where we needed to go to connect. Mali International Airport does check all suitcases and bags with an X-ray prior to actually being checked in. However, we were then introduced to a very large queue for the Etihad flight to Abu Dhabi. Okay, so finally made it to Maldivian International Airport. Maldivian was a fantastic experience, lovely flight. Unfortunately, had to leave the island at 4 o'clock this morning for a 6 AM flight. And then, yeah, not much time to get through the airport here, so it's quickly through the baggage drop, through security, through check-in, through the duty-free and to the gate to get to the Etihad flight that's next. So next up we've got the Etihad 787-9 to Abu Dhabi, and we found out that we've been upgraded. We went to business class on the A380, so there'll be a full video on there. Etihad has seat maps available for all of their fleet. They have 3 versions of the 787-9, and today we're going to be sitting in seat A and B on row 32. This is the upgraded seats to the emergency exit row. All of the international flights require a bus journey from the terminal gate to the aircraft. There's currently a new terminal being built, however this isn't going to be ready for another year or two yet. So our second flight of the day, we're leaving at Maldives International Airport, travelling over the Indian Ocean up towards Oman, travelling over Oman through the Omani UAE mountains, and then through UAE before arriving in Abu Dhabi. So getting on board the flight today, it is an extremely full flight, and to my dismay, when we get to the seats, it's one of these with the sides on both of the chair seats. It's an absolutely awful design, and if you're a tall, wider person like myself, you are wedged into these seats. You have got no room at all when you're on these. You cannot move around during the flight. The only real benefit that you get with the emergency exit rows is the leg room that you do get. So there is plenty of leg room here, as you can see. However, the fact that you can't really move left or right and you are wedged into the seat does not make up for it, and an extra £80 per seat, it is not worth it. In the future, I will not be going for these again. In fact, I don't know which is worse, either seat A or seat B. So seat B, you've got people to the left and right of you, and seat A, you've got the wall and you've got the overhead cabinet coming out, so it actually limits your headroom getting up. Being wedged into the seats meant it was rather difficult to find where things were, and actually having to use my camera on the phone to find out where things were. Eventually managed to find out where I needed to plug everything in and how to get the controls working and get everything out whilst my leg was stuck to the side of the chair. And the remote control was missing 2 buttons, so we got off to an absolute great start. Etihad's in-flight media is pretty good, however it's nowhere near what is available on Emirates. So it's okay for a 4.5 hour flight up to Abu Dhabi. However, if you're looking for something on a longer flight, then you really are going to have to be looking at something like Emirates for better selection, or opting for the Wi-Fi package of $10 whilst you're on the flight. Trying to get the chair's meal tray out was an absolute struggle and a half, and then actually trying to get the tray out whilst you got the TV out, and then putting the food onto it with the drink, it was one big juggling act. The food itself wasn't too much better. It was an option of either chicken or lamb. I myself opted for the chicken, along with the feta salad and a pudding, and my partner went for the lamb option, which came with the rice and the same salad and pudding option. These seats also have nowhere to store rubbish, so you end up using the one little side pocket next to seat A. However, something nice that I did find was the connection information. So the connecting gate for all the flights that Etihad had out of Abu Dhabi was all available. So I'm sat in my seat and all I can see are the extra legroom seats, and there's me wishing I went for those instead of the emergency exit row. The toilet itself is absolutely nothing special. It is just in the Etihad colours. It's the same kind of size that you're getting on any kind of Boeing 787. Again, nothing special. Yeah, it's kept tidy, but there's nothing else to it. If you're wanting a seat with a view, do not pick the emergency exit rows on the 787. You will not get any kind of window, and the view that I was able to get here was when I was coming out of the toilet and looking through the main entrance exit door of the cabin. Right then, back in Abu Dhabi International Zayed Terminal A. Again, wonderful place here. Very nice, brand new, air conditioned, it's nice and cool. So over to the next flight. So A380 business class to London Heathrow. First of all, we'll get through security and we'll get to the Etihad lounge, have a look around there, and then we'll head over to the flight. We've got a very short amount of time to try and get everything done. I think we've only got about an hour and a half at most. So we'll try and see as much as we can do in that amount of time. So our connection flight today is EY17 from Abu Dhabi to London Heathrow. To get to the Etihad lounges, just follow the signs towards gate C and you'll be able to find it quite easily.
Okay, so we're a little bit pushed for time. We're going into gate C, and it should be somewhere down here. Now, hoping it's going to be quite close to where we need to be. So we're on C29. But at the moment, first time here, going to this lounge. It's going to be an experience finding out where it is to begin with. Okay, so Etihad Business Lounge is not in the direction that we need to be. So we're going in the opposite direction now, but we'll still try and get there. Yep, we definitely appear to be going in the opposite direction of where we need to be going now. But hopefully it's not too much further. Okay, found it. So Etihad Business Lounge is just down from C27. Okay, so we've come up to floor 6, and this is where we have the roof lounge. Now, I'm not quite sure where our airplane is at the moment. It's either that one there or that one to the right. It's one of them, but been told we get called and we can just walk across floor 6 and get to where we need to go. Okay, so the Etihad lounge is rather nice. Okay, this is the selection of alcohol that we've got at the Etihad lounge. It looks rather nice, got a good selection going on there. And then got the buffet down there as well. So the Etihad lounge bar is quite large, it can fit in quite a large number of people. Anyway, we've got a drink, and we'll go and get some food in a moment.
The full menu from the lounge can be downloaded via a QR code, where it is available in English and Arabic. The QR code sends you to this webpage where you're able to download a PDF of the menu available.
Okay, so we've got a selection of fruit, cheeses, desserts, and little pastries. All looking very nice. Then we've got a veg selection, some breads, and some fresh salads on this side, as well as some dressing. On the hot dishes, we've got a mixture of Asian, so we've got beef dishes, chicken dishes, rice dishes, vegetarian, all looking very nice. And I think I'm probably going to go with the curry. Right then, I've opted for the dinner with a view. So we've gone for the paneer, the lamb, and some chicken. So all looks very nice. And also the view over. So we've now got a new A350 and an A380, maybe two A380s. So dinner with a view. Okay, so just a little something that caught my eye whilst eating my dinner. The cutlery is Etihad branded. So some nice Etihad cutlery.
So, after eating, I ran a speed test of the lounge's internet, where, to be honest, it wasn't particularly great. I would have thought this would have been better in the business class lounge. The level 6 lounge is absolutely huge. I'll put on another video which shows just how big this is. Now, there are various stands throughout the lounge where you're able to get a coffee, tea, cold drinks, fruits and snacks. So there's plenty available, but you don't have to go to the bar to get it. Something that I was not expecting to find was a smoking lounge and a cigar lounge. So this is a little bit peculiar to countries where smoking is still allowed within airports. There are smoking areas within the terminal. However, in the business class and first class area, you are able to buy cigars and then smoke them in the lounge itself. There is a little menu that goes with it, with a pricing list. These do range in price quite significantly. The bathroom facilities located on the 6th floor lounge are relatively nice. They're better than what is available in the main terminal. However, there are still issues with water on the floor in the bathrooms that are found in the main terminal. So we thought we'd get a coffee to go before going to get the flight. However, we soon learned that actually it was not on the 6th floor, it was on the 5th floor, so we had to leave the coffee behind. Heading down to the 5th floor, we get the first view of our A380 that we are taking to London Heathrow. Always amazes me just how big these aircraft are. They are absolutely huge. Before going to the upper deck of the A380, there is an additional security screening station, which I had the pleasure of going through. This is my first time going on the upper deck of any A380, and it was a very nice little surprise to find no queue. So straight on and straight to our seat. After firstly walking through the in-flight bar and walking through the first section of the business class area. So prior to being upgraded to business class, we had a upgrade to the economy seats right at the front of the aircraft in row 40. Now these were an additional £50 per seat, and as you can see there would have been plenty of legroom there. However, we were upgraded to seats 19C and 19D in business class after successfully winning the online auction for the upgraded seats at a reduced cost, which will be at the end of the video. Upon arrival at my seat in 19D, I was greeted with a drink by the cabin crew, and I would strongly recommend having the lemon and mint, as this was just absolutely fantastic, if not very sweet. And then the crew came around with a hot scented towel, which was very nice and refreshing after the flight that we just had coming from the Maldives. As I sat down with my drink, I had to familiarise myself with my new surroundings. It was a beautiful seat to be in, lots of space, had to have a look through the menu and see what we had available, and there was plenty of options going and lots of drinks that could be had, both soft and alcohol. And then we also had the amenities packages, so the little accessories that go with the flight. And it was then trying to work out how the seat worked and trying to arrange a optimal position to be in for the next 8 hours, if not going to be sleeping. The seat itself came with a little bit of storage space at the side of it, where we had the headphones inside of it and a bottle of water. The headphones were definitely an improvement upon what is available on the Etihad Economy, however it just took a little bit of finding as to where it actually was connected to the unit itself. The plug for the actual headphones turned out to be down the side in this little dock space here, but we got there eventually. The amenities kit that became available with the seat was a very small box that only contained 3 separate items. Out of these 3 items, I only used the little mist which I'm holding here. Now that was very refreshing just to spray on throughout the flight. However, the other 2 items I didn't use and I've just given those to my partner. The second amenities kit in the yellow bag had a couple of items in it, including a sleeping blindfold, which was okay, didn't use it though, as I really could not get to sleep, and a little toothbrush with toothpaste, which was a very nice little thing to have, especially once you've been awake for over 24 hours. The seat came included with 2 USB connections, however neither of these worked in my seat and I had to use the neighbour's connections. The in-flight media system is exactly the same as what you get in economy. There is absolutely no difference here whatsoever, and the same goes with the internet. You still have to pay for the internet regardless of being in business. However, the screen is significantly larger, and I have to say this has probably had less people using it, so it's still quite responsive to the touch compared to what you find in economy. Being a big and tall person, space is something I really look for in my seats. So being able to put my feet up, stretch out, and having the space either side of me is really important to me. Now the seats come with additional length of belt, which gives you that extra room to move around. The slippers initially looked like they might be large enough to accommodate my size 13s, however after trying them on I think they only go up to a size 11 or a 12 at the absolute most. Now I usually never wear slippers, but I had to just try them out and find out for myself what they were like. To my surprise, before taking off I had a look around and there was still a good number of business class seats still available on the flight. As we pushed back from the gate and we started our movement towards the runway, we were informed of a change in the flight for the day, and we had a good 15 to 20 minute movement up to the runway. This spot here was the first for me. I'd never seen 2 A380s actively passing each other on a dispersal, so that was the first. Eventually we made it towards the runway, and being a very large aircraft, fully fuelled, ready to go to London, it took quite some time to get off the ground. Eventually, after what felt like using the entirety of the runway, we were up in the skies, and I love being able to use these features on the aircraft, being able to watch the cameras from all the 3 angles that it has available. So initially our flight from Abu Dhabi to London Heathrow was meant to be travelling up the Gulf, going through Iraq, going through Turkey, and then over the Black Sea into Europe, travelling through Romania and Poland and Germany before flying over the English Channel and arriving into London Heathrow. However, this turned out not to be the case. So, due to ongoing escalations in the Middle East during October 2024, we've ended up going from Abu Dhabi and then flying through Saudi airspace up towards Egypt, going over the Suez Canal before flying over the Mediterranean, then flying up through Greece and then flying over Croatia before we ended up going over Austria, Switzerland, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, before arriving in London Heathrow. Now, upon takeoff, I had to try and get as much footage as I could before the lights went off. In business class, they do close off the blinds and they do change the lighting to make it ambient for sleeping. I was expecting so much more from a business class toilet. Now, apart from it being at an angle, there was nothing else that was really special about this bathroom. It was dark, it was just lit dimly, and actually there was less space in here than in the economy toilets, to be honest. So, on the whole, it just wasn't a good experience using that toilet. It was nothing special. The privacy sideboards at the side of the seat were absolutely minimal. Now, you don't really get much privacy to the side of you. Now, if you wanted to move this, it was quite hard as well. In my seat 19D, the adjacent seat was empty. However, if there was someone there, there would be minimal privacy as there's no board or separation between these two seats, but it's more ideal for accompanying passengers. The seat also comes with a hook for your coats and jackets, and the table which comes out from the side here. The table size that you do get is very generous, and it is a good space for working on. I have my laptop on this throughout the flight and for just putting all your meals on. The seat also comes with a mains socket. Now, I had to use this more than the USB as this was more powerful. My second drink of the flight was this lemon iced tea, which was nothing like I've had before. This was not like a Lipton style iced tea, it was not sweet, it was very much a tea flavour, so very different but strangely nice. The nuts, however, did not touch them. Yeah, just too many nuts. And again with the Etihad brand cutlery, this time a little stirrer in potentially gold plated, but who knows, just looked nice anyway, little propeller shaped, very nice little stirrer. After around 30 minutes of flight, the windows became shuttered and blacked out, and the lights started to change to this orange mood lighting to allow people to go to sleep. I found that my USB sockets didn't work and I had to use my neighbour's. However, once I plugged it in, I found out that the charging speed was ridiculously slow and my battery on my phone was actually losing charge even with it being plugged in. Around an hour into the flight, we moved to the in-flight bar, which is located between business and first class. Now, this is just a very nice experience to have, although the amount of alcohol and the availability of what is there is rather limited. Again, more branding on the cups this time between Etihad and Omani Casa, so a little bit of branding cooperation going on between the fashion house and Etihad. In the bar, there's potentially enough room here for 6 to 8 people to be in the bar at any one time. However, it could get a little bit cozy on here on the seats. There is also a TV in the bar, however, there is no sound to it. So BBC News was on, but I had absolutely no idea what was being said, so you had to really pay attention to what was actually on the screen. So my partner's first meal of the flight was this sushi and vegetable dish, which was nicely presented, and from what she told me, it was an absolutely fantastic dish that tasted lovely. I was absolutely stuffed after eating in the lounge in Abu Dhabi, so I opted for a steak sandwich with beer instead. It was very nice, and to say this was prepared in the sky, I couldn't complain. It was also served with a small portion of crisps, and this all went down very nicely. My partner's main dish was the beef tenderloin, and as you can see, this is fantastically well prepared and tasted absolutely fantastic just as well. And then we moved on to the dessert, which again had fantastic preparation to be done in the sky. Moving the chair into a bed position is best with you being off the chair. Now once I actually put this into the bed position, I found that I was the absolute max length for this chair. So at 6'3", my feet were touching the end of the cabinet underneath the TV, and my head was touching the plastic behind me. So the maximum length here to be lying down is about 192 centimeters. Additionally, trying to lie down on this was rather uncomfortable, and moving into any other position other than flat on my back was near enough impossible due to the sides restricting movement. My second dish, which I had much later in the flight, probably about 6 hours into the flight, was this chicken tikka dish, which I have to say was probably the best chicken tikka I've ever had in my life, and this was accompanied by a chocolate Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And then to finish off the food and drink was this cappuccino and little chocolate, and it was so nice to have a cappuccino in a proper cup instead of a cardboard one on a flight for a change. The accompanying Armani Casa blanket was very nice, so this was very comfortable, very large, and covered me quite easily. Although I do have to say that the cabin temperature in here was already quite high, so having this on for a prolonged amount of time, it got rather hot. So if you like being warm, you're going to be liking this blanket. In my personal opinion, I think the window seat was probably the better option here, and it did have the view when the windows were actually allowing the light to come through. Finally, the window shutters were raised and we're able to see outside, coming into London Heathrow on a nice sunny night. I just wish that they kept the windows lighter for longer, as there was no need for the aircraft to be dark for so long. Coming into land at Heathrow, it looked like there was a little bit of a crosswind going across the runway. However, the pilot did a tremendous job in landing right down the middle, so excellent job there by Etihad pilots. Okay, so the last thing that we need to talk about then is the upgrade, how I got it and how much it cost. Okay, so I got these seats for £510 each on top of the price that I'd already paid for the flights. So this upgrade was roughly half the price of what an upgrade should cost going for business class between Abu Dhabi and London Heathrow. Now, Etihad's auction is available after you have purchased the economy seats. Now, the auction bids do range in price and they do give you a recommended price to be working with. However, I did set it to the absolute lowest. And the reason for doing that was because I knew I was going back on the A380 and on the top deck it was entirely business class. And first class where I was flying on a weekday, and I thought that the flight would have a minimal amount of people on it. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. I'll be posting more travel videos in the coming days and weeks. If you have enjoyed it, please do subscribe, like and leave a comment. And until our next adventure, I'll see you again soon. Goodbye now.
Prepare for that.